What's up, my slime?
Excuse me?
I wasn't talking to you.
He was talking to me.
I'm sorry, you'll have to speak up. I'm eating ramen.
Ladies, gentlemen, and
Monsters of all ages, it's time to get noodly, and I'm not talking about new udra, but instead about the slurpability of that Ichiran goodness, because Monster Hunter Wild's newest collaboration is here, and it's one of the least expected things that I could have imagined, a ramen brand. And the whole deal with this collaboration is that there is a new NPC in the hub who gives you special meal tickets once per day. This meal ticket can be taken to the feast table, where there are two new unique feasts, the classic tonkatsu ramen, and then the 100% tonkatsu free ramen. Each of these feasts have their own unique food skills that you can get just nowhere else in the game. So today I'm going to explain what the food skills actually do, how good these meals actually are as a whole, because the thing is, they're actually both much better than you probably expect them to be, depending on what you want to focus for. That said, there is one new food skill that both of these share, one new food skill unique to each one, and then they also both get Sizzling Meal, which is one of the random meal skills that's already in the pool. Then you get two more random food skills on top of that as well, like the other feasts do too. That said, Sizzling Meal makes you ignore hot or cold environments, so no need to have a hot or cool drink while on a hunt, and it also gives you a slight defense increase when you are in hot or cold environments as well, which specifically is just 5 extra defense, so it's basically nothing compared to endgame armor set defense, but the hot and cool drink ignoring is not a bad bonus to have. The brand new food skill that both of these have then is called Extra Noodles, which is just so funny to me that they've just genuinely created food skills to this with relevant names, because they definitely won't have these food skills coming back in any way outside of this ramen collaboration most likely, and that is just fantastic. That said, Extra Noodles makes it so the first 2 edible items that you consume on a quest are free, and the simple explanation of what this actually works for is it's exactly the same as the free meal skill. If it's an item that your hunter puts in their mouth, it counts for this bonus, with the easy example being the buff items. Seeds that you eat, they count. Pills you eat, they count. Drugs you drink, so those count too, but powders like demon powder do not count. It does not activate for this skill. That said, I would say there are 2 possible scenarios where this gets extreme value for you. If you are thinking pure offense, bring might pills on the hunt. These are a large attack boost for a short period of time, but they are not cheap to craft and you can only bring a handful of them in your pouch. If you purposefully use one of these at the start of the quest before you do like a sneak attack to open up on the monster, and then use another might pill after the first one runs out, this is a lot of relative value saved because you will have them for free from the food skill, and beyond just saving materials, it lets you literally use 2 more might pills than you could normally carry without a restock. That said, most players tend not to optimize to the point of using might pills frequently on quests, so the best case scenario for most people will be things like max potions and ancient potions specifically, which are of course the biggest healing options in the game. At this point, especially with how hard monsters are hitting in the end game of Wilds, most players carry around 2 max potions in their loadout, if not also an ancient potion on top of that too. These are the most expensive healing items and the ones that are the most limited with space within your pouch. That said, if you specifically purposefully use these as your first 2 items on a quest, if you wait to heal until you need a full max potion worth of healing, they would essentially be 2 massive bonus heals for free that you wouldn't have without the food skill. Nice and simple. Now we have the 2 big ticket food skills. First up for classic tonkatsu ramen is Spicy Red Meal Attack. The description says using a food or drink item temporarily boosts focus strike, wound destruction damage, and part damage. And while that may sound a bit abstract at a glance, it's much simpler than it looks like. When you eat an item that goes in your hunter's mouth, so all the same things that work for Extra Noodles, which we just talked about, or the free meal skill, with the easiest to use frequently being potions that you would use for healing anyways, rations, which you can get loads of and eat very, very quickly because the animation is fast, or might seeds even, you could use to activate this easily and frequently too. When you activate it, it then lasts for 30 seconds, but it does not extend the active time if you eat another item while it's already going. But there isn't a cooldown on it either, so as soon as you see the pop-up that says the effect is deactivated, you can then instantly reapply it. As for what the effect itself means, let's have a look at the Part Breaker skill. Makes it easier to break large monster parts and increases damage dealt when destroying a wound with a focus strike. That sounds real familiar, right? Well, that's because the food skill that we are talking about right now is literally just ranks of Part Breaker when it's active. Specifically, it is the equivalent of 2 ranks of Part Breaker, so 20% bonus part damage and 20% bonus damage from focus strike wound destructions while it's active. This does stack with ranks of Part Breaker, so if you have 1 Part Breaker in your build and then you eat for this food skill, you would have the equivalent of 3 Part Breaker, but it does not stack past the natural limit of Part Breaker. The maximum bonus is 30% from this, even if you had 3 Part Breaker and the food skill active too. That said, 2 ranks of part breaker essentially for free from the meal skill is actually quite high value compared to the majority of food skill options in the game, as part breaks result in flinches and knockdowns depending on the monster, which obviously result in extra damage. They result in bonus farm value from the extra parts that you'll break from doing the quest, but also the bonus damage from wound destructions is especially good for something like arch-tempered arkveld, for example, who actually gets a surprisingly frequent amount of wounds for a 10-star monster. That said, let's talk about the other unique food skill as well, spicy red meal energy. Using a food or drink item temporarily boosts stamina recovery speed. For activating the effect, it works identically to the other food skill that we just talked about, except that this one lasts for 60 seconds instead of only 30 seconds. So you will likely have a lot of natural uptime on it just from normal item use that you have in a hunt, even without purposefully trying to activate the skill. However, if you eat another item while the duration is already ongoing, it does not extend the uptime, but it also has no cooldown before it can activate again after you finish it. Like the previous food skill that we talked about, this one is also really solid because, as you may have guessed, it is essentially just ranks of a skill that already exists in the game, specifically this time being Stamina Surge, which literally reads that it speeds up stamina recovery, timing them side by side on how long it takes to refill the stamina bar after emptying it. Stamina Surge 1, then testing Stamina Surge 2, then testing Stamina Surge 3, then 0 ranks of Stamina Surge with the food skill active. It is very clearly the equivalent of Stamina Surge 2 while the food skill is going. So 2 ranks of Stamina Surge. Like with the other food skill that we just talked about, it does stack with Stamina Surge itself, so if you had 1 Stamina Surge in your build, this would be the equivalent of 3 Stamina Surge. However, if you already have 3 ranks of Stamina Surge, then also having the food skill will add no value to your experience. That said, you may be wondering how valuable that actually is, and to put it simply, 30% faster stamina recovery means that any weapon that actively uses stamina while playing, like a bow or dual blades or especially hammer, which both uses stamina but also still tries to run maximum might for that weapon too, these are straight up meaningful gameplay enhancements for all of those weapons, resulting in various amounts of bonus damage due to the extra stamina you can then use in combat, but then also just extra comfort for those types of weapons too. That said, the other way to look at this is it gives you extra maximum might uptime. Whenever you fall under maximum stamina for a certain amount of time, you will lose maximum might until your bar is filled up again, and then you can have the effect activate again. Having that active 30% faster means you will have your 30% affinity for maximum might back that much quicker, and that is a big deal. For a lot of weapons, a little bit of stamina surge is genuinely considered at least a slight damage increase over the course of a hunt, and so getting 2 ranks of stamina surge for literally just eating an item once per minute while this is active is incredible value. That's both food skills covered then and how they actually work, but now let's talk about how good they actually are, and the simple answer is that these are 2 of the strongest food skills in the game, with a couple of caveats. First, if your build requires a specific food skill, you won't be using these. That mostly just applies to things like bow that has builds where they need black belt meal skill to make up for stamina comfort in the build, but you could also argue that 2 ranks of stamina surge might well be worth swapping to that feast instead anyways, depending on your exact setup, obviously. Outside of niche specific situations like that, however, most people's best choices of food is just getting one of the feasts in the hub, because they not only last the longest, but they also provide the best stat buffs that you can get. They're much better than grilled meal stat buffs, and the standard ones all come with insurance for a bonus cart on the quest, and then a useful food skill as well, but for the most part, the food skills are defensive. Defender meal is essentially Divine Blessing, which is great, but only if you're worried about damage that's coming at you. Tumbler meal is essentially Evade window, which also is great, but only if you are worried about avoiding damage that's coming at you easier. Moxie meal is one-shot avoidance one time in a quest, which only matters if you are afraid of being one-shot by the thing that you're fighting. And Caprice meal is very infrequent minor attack buff that doesn't honestly amount to a whole lot, especially as it's inconsistent and unpredictable if it will line up with the moment where you can actually do a burst of damage. Swimmer meal is relevant if you are fighting in the forest due to the actual ability to keep yourself wet and thus keep this active, but otherwise it's not that much value, and it's only really a feast right now because we have the specific festival active that we do. But that leaves us with these 2 new feast options, which are these ramen feasts. Spicy red meal attack is purely offensive. It will help you break parts to get more rewards and do more damage when you pop wounds. It's an easy one to point at and say this is a great choice if you are either farming things that are easy to fight, or if you are fighting hard things but don't think that you need to dedicate your food skills to defense. Spicy red meal energy is incredible for a few weapons, the ones where stamina surge really makes a noticeable difference, and at 60-second duration, it is much more reliable as well. But again, the important thing to note here is that this is also a damage increase for the majority of weapons in the game, because it increases your maximum might uptime. So if you are a weapon that uses maximum might, and you are doing quests where wounds aren't expected to be frequent, like doing 9-star tempered monsters, or the 10-star quests that aren't arkveld, this is actually likely the best consistent offensive gain from a food skill that you can get, outside of swimmer meal in its niche activation situations situations. For things below 9-star, or specifically arch-tempered arkveld, spicy red meal attack is extremely good, and honestly it's still quite good if you use it just in general, even outside of the extra wound damage, because 20% extra part damage can get you extra downtime on the monster. But that's a bit more situational and monster dependent than the value of higher maximum might uptime and more comfortable stamina, which I think everyone would be able to appreciate. That said, all that to say, both of these are new feast meals and they're genuinely very, very good. It's a shame that you can only eat them once per day. Which one is best between them is a little bit situational, it's a little bit dependent on your weapon type and your build and what you plan on doing with your time while the meal is active, but they are very clearly two of the best food skill options in the entire game if you also consider that they come with the full feast stat buffs as well. Yes, I have just spent what is probably a strange amount of time explaining what eating ramen in Monster Hunter does for you on a functional level, but I'm surprised by how genuinely good these feast buffs are, and I wanted to go into proper detail to test it and share the results with you all. I hope you've all enjoyed this video, and I wish you the best on your ramen-fueled hunts. Like if you liked the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.